to Stedding Soulfood, the kitchen of Randland. I am Rob, Malkier's sexiest chef, and today we are going to be starting off with something very sweet. Yes, I'm going to be cooking apple tarts. Now, where in the Wheel of Time are apple tarts mentioned, you may ask? Well, they are mentioned in A Winter's Heart, chapter 9, called A Cup of Tea. And this is one of the selection of dishes sent to Elaine by one of her maids because she skipped a meal. Hopefully that doesn't spoil anything. I feel that's fairly enough outside of context. Yeah, thank you, Registered Nerd, one of my patrons, for the suggestion. I think it's a great start to this new style of cooking video I'm doing. I hope you enjoy all of my greenery and my shrubbery. They don't all live in the kitchen typically, but you know, when I'm doing Stedding Soulfood, they join me for a little bit of cooking. So, let's get to it. Okay, so what are you going to need to make the apple tarts? Now, I've gone for a very simple recipe here. I could have gone for something very complicated, big filled deep tarts and such, but I'm going for a flattened tart. So it's going to be very simple, very easy, something I feel the chefs could whip up quite quickly in need of something sweet just to give Elaine short notice, because as we said, she's decided to skip a meal on this occasion. So firstly, you're going to need some puff pastry. Now, I've gone and brought some puff pastry. If you're a baking whiz and you want to make your own puff pastry, knock your socks off and go for it. Obviously, you're going to need some apples, depending on how much pastry you roll out, depends how many apples you'll need. We're going to need a little bit of lemon juice, so I've got myself a nice fresh lemon. You're going to want to be throwing in a little touch of vanilla essence, some caster sugar, and a bit of butter. Very, very simple. Obviously, if you're making the pastry from scratch, you'll need more items. You'll have to look that up yourself because I've gone and bought some. So, what's the first step? Let's prep all these items. Easy peasy, we're just going to slice our apples first. Actually, before we do that, let's preheat the oven. So you want the oven set to 220 degrees Celsius, which is 200 degrees if it's fan forced. That's gas mark 7, and I'll stick on screen what that is in Fahrenheit. Thank you, editing Rob. Okay, so as you can see, I've thinly sliced my apples here. I've just quartered them, taken the pips and seeds out obviously, and then I've sliced them all nice and thin. Slice them however you want, just make sure that they can be placed across pastry, basically. So slices is what I went for, but if you're going to do chunks and make them tiny, knock your socks off, it will just cook faster. So at this stage we're going to be adding the lemon juice, so I've already done some, but let's get some more in there. I tried to pick a juicy lemon when I did this, but also the other big secret, get lots of lemon juice out of this, which is great, is to roll your lemon on the bench. Give it a good squish. This is obviously before you cut it in half, like I've done. Okay, and then it will break up all the fibres inside the lemon, releasing all the juice that you want to do, which is kind of what you're doing now when you're squishing it, okay, as you're getting all the lemon juice out. But by doing it whilst it's inside the lemon, you're just releasing it or making it easier for you to then get that all out. So, let's give that a toss around. Make sure all our slices are getting a good bit of lemon treatment. And smell that citrus. Loyal would approve, I'm sure. Nice natural flavour there. It's just, yeah, fabulous. So a little tip for this stage, okay, is I'm going to add a little splash of vanilla essence or vanilla extract, depending on what you prefer. Okay, I'm just going to drop a little bit in there. Not too much, because this is obviously strong stuff. I might, you know, let's see if we get any out first. There we go. Just a half dozen dribbles or so. And I'm going to toss that around in there. Now, if you had vanilla sugar, which is another item out there you can get, you could mix that in. You could get that mixed in with your caster sugar. I've decided to mix it in with the lemon juice. Just add a little bit of flavour there instead. But that's it. Your apples are prepared at this stage. They're ready to rock and roll. So put those to one side and let's get to work on the pastry. Okay, so here's my pastry. It's a nice, simple, thin sheet of puff pastry. Now, I've gone for shop-bought pastry for two reasons. Firstly, I suck at making pastry. Baking is not my forte. Cooking is my forte. So I will have to get a guest baker at some point. But secondly, it comes with a nice piece of greaseproof that you can then put on your tray as well. So it's very quick, very simple. I just bought this. This is frozen from my local supermarket. Just defrosted in my fridge for 24 hours. And then about an hour before I wanted to start cooking, I took it out and brought it to room temperature. Very, very simple. If you're making your own pastry, you have like a big lump of dough or something like that, obviously at this stage you want to be rolling it out, okay, to get a nice flat piece of pastry. Make it fit your pan, okay? So this piece will fit my pan, and that's why I bought it. But if you have a smaller pan, roll a smaller piece of pastry. Roll into multiple pieces and do multiple tarts. Whatever works for you, look at your equipment and just, you know, work it out. I'm sure you can figure it out, and you know, just make what you need. So this is what I need, this is what I'm going to go with. So the one thing you want to do at this stage is you want to give it like a little wall around the edge. Okay, so for that I'm just going to roll it up slightly and pinch it. Okay, just to create like a little sort of wall barrier at the edge. Okay, and the purpose behind this is so things don't leak out, because obviously there's a bit of liquid in these apples, and I've put lemon juice in and such, so we don't want that to be leaking out. Now I'm being very rough here, okay? This is not a work of art. I'm not going in for a Michelin star. This is Stedding Soulfood. Here it's about the food, okay? It's about the feeling, the enjoyment, the flavours. We don't worry if it looks rustic. We are rustic. I'm cooking in a kitchen full of plants. So, you know, it's fine. Okay, just create yourself a nice little barrier there. Look at that. Fabulous. And we're ready to rock and roll. This is where you add the apples, folks. This is a very simple dish, like I said. So let's get adding them in. So here we are, I've laid out all of my apples. I had to cut a fourth apple to make this work, but that's fine. I thought three or four apples would be sufficient. Obviously, if I wanted to pack it in tighter, I could have done more apples, but I like the spread here. Oh, this is thin pastry, thin apple slices. It's all going to cook nice and fast. Now here's some of the really fun stuff. Remember that sugar and the butter I mentioned earlier? Well, now they come into play. Okay, so what you want to be doing here is you want to take some of your caster sugar and you want to just be sprinkling it across the top. Okay, try and use a sparing amount. Don't go wild. You know, there is a sweetness to the apples, your tartness to the citrus. You're just kind of balancing the flavours here. And also this will help caramelize the top a little bit, give it a bit of crispiness. Okay, so have some fun there. Sprinkle on your sugar. If you've got a sugar duster, use that, go for it. I don't recommend icing sugar, I do recommend caster sugar, and I don't recommend regular granulated sugar either, because it's just going to take too long to finish now. So that's that. And then we're going to take the butter. Okay, I've got probably approximately sort of 20-30 grams here, something like that, and I'm just going to dot it around so it melts into the pastry and the dish while it's baking. Remember, I said this was going to be slightly juicy, that's why we had to create the barrier around the edge. Well, butter's going to be part of that. So, plenty of pieces of butter here. Just break it up in your hands. Rough. This is a rustic dish. We don't do Michelin star here at Stedding Soulfood. We do food that's good for your soul. And I think this is going to be amazing. I also think I'm going to need a pizza cutter to cut it. Which is going to be fun. But let's finish this up. Okay, so here it is. This is my flattened tart, ready to go into the oven. So, yeah, just throwing the butter on, as you can see. I've been fairly generous with the butter, but I don't think that's a bad thing. You can be over generous with butter, so be wary of that. But I've put a good dash of sugar on here. There's plenty of lemon juice in that. I just want the butter there to make sure that the pastry has a little something to it. And now you want to be putting this into the oven and baking it for about 15 minutes. You know, keep an eye on this dish. Obviously, I'm using quite thin pastry here, thin slices of apple. This could crisp up very quickly. It might take 10-12 minutes. It might take slightly longer. It might take you up to 20 minutes. It depends how your oven decides to work, the thickness of your pastry, the thickness of your apple slices. So just keep a close eye on it, and yeah, we will see how this turns out very, very shortly. Okay folks, so here it is. This is our apple tarts. Now it took a little longer to bake than I thought it was going to, but that's because it was very juicy, and it's still very juicy in the center, so this might be a tad messy, but we're going to have some fun with it anyway. Okay, I'm just going to take it out. Oh, that dip in the middle. Oh my god. Look at that. Ah, smells fabulous. Let's get rid of this. Let's let that cool down, and then we'll give it a bit of a try. Okay folks, here we go. It is time to taste. I've let it cool down a little bit. It's still very soft, but I'm eager to get into this and give it a try. I definitely think it's going to be a cold pastry as opposed to a hot pastry, just by how much juice and flavour that was running around there with the butter and everything else. So yeah, here we go. I'm just gonna slice it up. Let's good old trusty pizza cutter out there. Let's do myself a slice. Let's see what we get. That looks a little, ooh, num num. Mmm. Mm-hmm. That is great. Mm-hmm. This is fabulous. It's very light. Mm. The apples have a little bit of bite to them. I'm getting a little bit of the other flavours. I think it needs like some kind of preserve, I think. So the recipe I found did suggest to put a preserve on top afterwards, some kind of jam or something that you wanted, chutney, you know, anything you think is going to complement the flavours. I didn't want to do this. I wanted something that was very simple, very basic, you know, just something that you can make quick, eaten in the afternoon when you've skipped a meal, and I think this fulfills that. But if you wanted it to be sweeter, or you know, have more flavours going on, then put a preserve, spread a little preserve over the top of some kind of jam, whatever you want, and knock your socks off. But this is great just as it is. Definitely a cold dessert. Thank you, Registered Nerd, one of my patrons, for suggesting this dish. It's an excellent start to my season, and I'm going to enjoy this a lot. This is what I'm going to be snacking on, folks. I'm making this video on the day of release of Trailer Guide On. It drops at 4:30 in the afternoon here, so I needed to find something to pass the time with. I'm like, I'm gonna cook, and then I have food to eat during the show. So here we go, folks. Who knows when this will come out, but this is when it was filmed. So thank you so much to my patrons who make all of my content possible. I love you all. You're amazing, and thank you for watching this. I hope you give this a try. You know, let me know how it turns out. You can tell me on Twitter at Malkier Talks. You can comment on the video below what you think I should be cooking next. If you don't want to give this a try, you're like, I'd love to see you make that instead, put that down below in the comments. Let me know and I will add it to my list. And if you want to come and interact with me directly, the best way to do that is in Discord. You know, I've got a wonderful family in there, lots and lots of people. And if you want to support and also, you know, help me do more, then Patreon's the best way to do that. Patreon.com/MalkierTalks. And perhaps the next dish I make is the one that you suggest. But until next time, folks, I hope you get cooking in the kitchen, have some fun, and as I like to say around here at Stedding Soulfood, Subdrel Kwatan Nisagain.